Hello, my name is David Birnbaum. Okay, so the subject today is here we are bullshit and the decline of the global garment industry. This is an exercise in strategic development. We all agree that the garment industry faces very, very serious problems. We, we are living in a time when we have the COVID-19 virus. We're living in a time when we're in a state of recession. The question is, what caused the problem? There are people today that look at the problem as the virus and the recession, which we in the industry can do nothing about. So the feeling is we sit tight, do our best, and when the virus disappears and the recession comes to an end, we can return to normalcy. However, there are other people who believe that the real problem is not the virus. It is not the recession. The real problem predates that. And if that's the case, when the virus comes to an end, the recession is over, we're to be stuck with a problem. How could we tell? How could we tell one from the other? Okay. The problem we face here is that every problem has a solution. I've been doing this for many years. However, we cannot solve the problems we face today because we are all drowning in a sea of bullshit. So for the next 45 minutes or less, I'm going to explain to you how to get rid of the bullshit and how to resolve the intractable problems. We're going to be using Bangladesh and India, two major garment exporting countries, as models to show you how you can create your own practical strategies. We want to find out whether the problem predates the virus and the recession, or whether the virus and the recession are the cause of the problem. How do we do that? Well, we look back. We take a period of 10 years from 2010 to 2019, before the virus, before the recession, and we see how did Bangladesh, how did India do during this period. The first way to do this is to look at exports. People think this is the obvious conclusion. And if you look at the exports, you can see that from 2010 2019, Bangladesh did tremendously. It started at 15 billion and they wound up at 40 billion. India did tremendously. They started at 898 million and they wound up with 14 billion. Cambodia did tremendously. So from this chart, we can see proof positive that the problem is the virus, the problem is the recession. This is bullshit. This is true bullshit. We live in a global industry. It doesn't matter how well you're doing. It matters how well you're doing compared to your competitors everywhere. In bad times, your exports might be falling, but perhaps the rate of decline for you is less than it is for other people, in which case your market share has gone up. Likewise, in good times, maybe you're exporting more, but the market share is not going up. The market share is declining. And that means that your customers are taking business away from you and sending it to your competitors. You look at the charts we have here, and the graphs are pictures. It looks like a perfect solution for Bangladesh. It looks like India is doing really well. Okay, they had slight problems in 2018-19, but they're doing very well. And Cambodia, which I'm using as a standard, did great. But when you move into market share, you can see the problem. It isn't as great as we thought. Yes, Bangladesh is doing very well, but In the period 2018, 2019, they're not improving that much. India, the market share peaked in 2016 and has been falling ever since. Yes, it's doing a lot better now than 2010, but it is in a state of decline. Cambodia is the one great winner. So we think this is the answer. We can see what's happening because of market share. And I have to tell you, this too is bullshit. Because to understand the trend, understand what's happening, you have to look at how it changes from year to year. So you see how it is 2011 compared to 2010, 2012 compared to 2011. And when you start looking at this, here you have Bangladesh in the market share, India declining market share, Cambodia doing well. But when you look at the industry changes, we can see that Bangladesh had a tremendous run up to 2016. The increase in 2016 over 2015 was 28%, 23%, 9%. But after that, in 2017, the increase was only 0.5%. The increase in 2018 was only 6.3%, far down. India, you can see market share has been declining. The change in market share has been declining just about every year since 2011. Only Cambodia seems to be doing well. You look at the pictures. Okay, we have two lines here. One is the actual changes from year to year. The other one is a trend line. For those people in love with statistics, it is a third order binomial trend. You don't have to take a course in statistics to do this. Your Excel computer program will do this for you. You can see Bangladesh, the trend line, peaked between 2016 and 2017, and then the trend started falling. And we know from information, from data released by the Bangladeshi government, that in the second half of 2019, market share fell. And in November, last month they released information, it declined 11% compared to the period in the previous year. We can see here that India has been in a state of decline since 2011. It peaked at an improvement of 12.1%, and it's in minus. It's been in minus for the last 2 years. Oddly enough, only Cambodia is doing well. And it has ups and downs, but you can see that in 2019, it looked ahead. When we take a look at this period, 2010 to 2019, we can see how 2020 fit into this previous trend. India, they did pretty well in January, February, March. From April on, it went into a state of collapse. The improvement in June showed that the exports in India were $150 million that month, compared with $370 million in the previous month. Market share peaked in March and then fell every single month. The slight improvement in June is not bringing them up. Bangladesh. The exports in Bangladesh moved down every single month, although there was an improvement in June. The market share peaked in April and then it collapsed. So the question is, if the problem is not the virus, if the problem is not the recession, then what is the problem? We look at India. India is potentially a great industry. It has probably the best fashion and design knowledge in Asia. They should be at the top, but they face serious problems. It has the highest rate of attrition in the in the world. In our study that were employed by the Indian government and the AEPC, we saw a rate of attrition of 12% a month. Indian factories fail to follow existing labor regulations. It's a fact of life. It has low productivity, low level of training. It has uneven quality, excessively long lead times. However, however, all of these problems have a common cause. And this is the issue. Our industry, our industry is seasonal. In a non-seasonal industry, every month should export the same percentage of goods, 8.333%. Because 8.333% times 12 is 99.99%. But our industry is different. If you look at the blue line, you can see that in our industry, January, February are reasonably good months, above 8.3%. After that, after that, it falls down and moves up again June, July, August, September, October. Because the January, February is the spring season, the lightweight goods, and June, July, August, September, October is the heavyweight winter goods and the holiday goods. India only has one season. You can see this. India has a great January, a great February, a great March, and then after that goes into a constant decline. How can an industry survive that fails to produce fall season, holiday season merchandise? Why does it happen? This is the basis of the problem. Again, high rate worker attrition, of course. As the orders fall, factories have to lay off workers. Failure to follow existing labor regulations, well, you have to lay off the workers whether it's legal or not. The management has no choice. Low productivity, yes, if you're laying off your workers, you can't train them. High rate of attrition because the high rate of attrition is the factories cannot invest in worker training. Without worker training, productivity remains low. And the interesting thing is the uneven quality and the excessively long lead times is an indication of the fundamental problem. What is the fundamental problem? It's fabric. This is really an exceptional situation. Of the leading garment exporters in the world, India has the lowest rate of fabric imports, 1.4% global market share. You look at countries like that have great industry, have great textile industries, China, Italy, and you see that China's import fabric market share is 7.3%. In Italy, sorry, is 3.2%. The question is, why don't Indian factories import fabric? Because if they can't import fabric, they can't have a full season, and if they can't have a full season, the industry is going to have to fail. And so, if you look at a solution, the only possible solution is to encourage fabric imports. The solution is duty-free imports for all fabric. Immediately you have cost savings. From one season industry, you have a year-round industry. Seasonal layoffs disappear. Factories can follow existing labor regulations. Factories can commit to more worker training. Factories can have greater productivity. There are hidden costs. The mills in India, for the most part, produce gray goods. So the factories have to buy the gray goods and send the fabric to local dyers and finishers. These are often substandard. The results are often substandard. But the factory has no recourse. The factory, if the dyer and finisher fails, they can't return the fabric. They have a choice. The choice is to ship the garment, to produce the garments and ship them to the customer, knowing that they might be unacceptable. This is why India has a reputation for uneven reliability. At the same time, delivery from the dyer finishers are often late, which gives rise to the dual delivery concept. You talk to Indian manufacturers, and they tell you quite frankly, there's an industry time for lead times, and there's an India time for lead times. Our lead times are India. That's the problem. The question is, will this hurt the textile industry? And this is the remarkable thing. India is home to the world's third largest textile exporting industry after China and Italy. They ship all over the world. They ship to countries where they are charged duty. They ship to countries. They're shipped to countries where they have to pay there's logistic costs, there's freight costs, and they ship successfully. If they can do that, if they can export successfully, they must be able to compete effectively in their own market, where they have no duty, no import tariffs, no non-tariff barriers. The second part, this is really dangerous, is they might be what we call a captive customer syndrome. If the local customers are unable to import goods, they're often forced to pay a higher price than the foreign importers for the same goods. Now, under WTO regulations, this is illegal. You cannot, a country cannot charge less for exports than you do for domestic production. The solution is not to subsidize, not to lower ethical standards. The government must play a role, a negative role. They must provide a level playing field. India's garment industry should be one of the world's most successful. In a free market, India could become the Italy of Asia without exaggeration. Depends on whether the government wants to play the role. Okay, Bangladesh. Bangladesh also has some great assets. They're reliable, the quality is reasonable, and the FOE price is among the lowest in the world. I'll go further. On average, Bangladesh's FOE price are the lowest in the world. And yet, Bangladesh seems to be facing one terrible problem. Their industry is failing. You ask Bangladeshi people what's the problem, and they tell you quite frankly, the customers will not pay a decent price. We in some cases have to ship below cost. And actually, I have to tell you, the Bangladesh Garment Manufacturers and Export Association and their members are 100% correct. They have the lowest prices, and very often those prices are below cost. However, the problem is that they're holding the picture upside down. This is a classic case of bullshit, the two-dimensional data, all of which brings us back to where we started. We have to look at this problem in a three-dimensional way. The question is not why are customers paying Bangladesh factories so little. The real question is why are customers paying everybody else so much more? I want you to take this home with you, the FOB prices for the 8 largest Bangladesh garment products. The most important product they have is men's cotton pants, not denim. Bangladesh's price is the lowest in the world. If for shorts, it's the third lowest after Cambodia and Pakistan. Men's jeans, the third lowest after Pakistan and Sub-Saharan Africa. Men's cotton woven shirts, the lowest in the world. Women's jeans, the lowest in the world. Women's cotton pants, cotton other than jeans, the second lowest in the world. Cotton sweatshirts and pullovers, the second lowest in the world. Men's cotton t-shirts, the lowest in the world. You can't get any lower than that. You can't say that there's a problem of cost. You are already charging the lowest price. I have to explain something about price and cost. Cost is what the supplier pays for materials and labor. Price is what the customer pays. Costs are quantifiable. Price is about value. It's the value that the customer looks at the product. No customer cares about the supplier's cost. You think for yourself. You go into a pharmacy and you want to buy a tube of toothpaste. Do you really care what the Colgate people paid for the material, what they paid for labor, what they paid for the manufacturing cost? No, you pay for what you want. In some cases, you want ecologically friendly toothpaste. Other cases, you want toothpaste that has a whitener. You think that is worth more than the regular toothpaste, so you pay for it. You buy a car. Why would anybody buy a Porsche? It's $100,000. There's no justification except the fact that the person who buys a Porsche sees the value in the Porsche, and he has $100,000. That's what this is about. The customers pay Bangladesh less than its competitors because the customer believes that Bangladesh garments are worth less. Bangladesh is losing business because even though they have the lowest FOB price in the world, customers do not believe even in this low price the product is worth the money. This is a terrible conclusion. So, let me slide. So, how can the government must recognize that they must come to terms with a problem? And the problem is not price. It is not quality. It is not delivery. But unless Bangladesh industry recognizes the problem, the 6,000 plus factories and 4 million workers may not survive. So what's the problem? The problem is ethical. The problem is about how Bangladesh workers are treated. Low wages, excessive overtime, poor working conditions, unsafe factories. The problem is about Bangladesh factories, how they deal with the environment, pollution, sustainability, global warming. People in Bangladesh brag about the fact that they have sustainable factories, 33 platinum sustainable factories. There are 6,000 factories in the country. 33 factories is what? Is a fraction of 1%. The problem is that in today's consumer-driven market, factories, entire national industries that fail to meet the standards of corporate social responsibility will become outlaws. We have a second problem. That even if the Bangladesh industry accepts the first problem and decides to make the concerted effort to solve that problem, no solution on Bangladesh's part is possible. And the problem is that creating a solution will require at least 2 years. 1 year to analyze the full extent of the problem, devise a strategic solution, 1 year to implement the strategy to the point where measurable results can be achieved. Given the current circumstances, few governments will be willing to continue the current level of business for 2 years while waiting for a solution because the industry lacks the credibility. The solution? This is really tough. 1, accept the problem. 2, bring in outsiders to solve the problem. Bring in the industry's version of our own inglorious bastards. Bring in Greenpeace for the problems in the environment. Bring in the International Trade Union Confederation for the problems of compliance. Give them a free hand. 6 months to carry out a complete investigation and publish a detailed report. 6 months to create and publish a viable strategy to overcome the deficiencies. And then have a commitment implement the strategy. Customers want to work in Bangladesh. They don't want to leave. Greenpeace and ITUC will give them a reason to stay because they have credibility. Because if you treat them badly, they'll walk away. This is the solution. The difficulty is, yes, every strategy comes with a cost. In the case of India and Bangladesh, the cost can be very high. And I don't mean very high in terms of money, but if the given the problems facing India and Bangladesh, the strategic value of the solutions must exceed the cost.